各位觀眾大家好，歡迎大家收睇婉華時報。咁婉華咧今日咧有一樣嘢要宣佈嘅，咁就係咧好希望住喺我哋溫哥華嘅朋友啦，無論你係喺邊一個城市都好啦，嚟到列治文，聽日係我哋嘅 Family Day，嚟到列治文咧，去到我哋嘅 City of Richmond 市政府嗰度咧，我哋有一個嘅聚會，呢一個聚會咧就係要向毒品 say no。我哋有個 campaign 嘅就係就係呢一個 Keep Richmond Safe 呢一個保護列治文嘅集會，係 Rally for Action on Drugs， 即係話咧，我哋係要向毒品 say no， 我哋要集結我哋嘅力量咧，同我哋嘅聯邦政府，包括埋我哋嘅省政府，話俾佢哋聽，毒品點樣殘害我哋嘅社會，點樣殘害我哋嘅年輕人。同埋點樣去騷擾我哋嘅生活，令到我哋成個社會係倒退，唔能夠進步。而我哋而家個法例係非常之 ridiculous， 係不可理喻，係冇可能嘅事。之前咧曾經咧，我哋嗰個 BC Housing 嗰個Ravi Cullen 咧話咧要重啟嗰個嘅支援性房屋，我亦都係統稱啦，我自己叫佢做道友屋啦，咁亦都係叫做 supportive housing。佢突然之間，本來呢一個嘅 NDP 政府省政府咧話已經係cancel 咗噶啦，延緩噶，但係咧因為要大選，因為舊年嘅10月咧係要大選，所以佢喺7月嘅時候咧就已經話咧，呢個 project 因為唔得到大家嘅認同，好多嘅市民反對，咁因為咧嗰個嘅支援性房屋咧就起喺我哋列治文嘅華人嘅購物區嘅中心，咁因為好多人反對啦，好多嘅組織好多嘅聲音啦，所以咧令到佢擱置，因為佢擔心佢嘅選票。好啦，咁好可惜啦，佢哋依然咧得到真係少過一個馬鼻嘅票咧，亦都贏咗今次嘅省選。結果佢啱啱喺呢個2月頭嘅時候咧，亦都再講翻出嚟，就話咧呢個選址咧係最適合不過咧去起一個嘅支援性房屋，令到我哋所有列治文嘅居民咧大為震驚，覺得市政府講大話。哇！言而無信，你話咗 cancel， 話咗暫緩，亦都講過話，其實而家亦都冇一個急切性去做呢樣嘢，冇真係邊度嚟有咁多 homeless 啊？係咪冇呢個嘅迫切性？所以咧先至會 cancel， 但係原來咧一切都係為咗選票，一切咧都係為咗佢自己嘅利益。所以我覺得佢哋咧言而無信，講大話，咁佢要夾硬咧將呢一個波就交俾我哋嘅市政府啦。我哋嘅市政府咧就係市長 Malcolm Brody 啦。咁佢照計下，佢應該要聽呢個 NDP 嘅任務啦。咁但係因為佢知道咧唔得啦。成個我哋嘅列治文嘅居民咧，都係反對呢一種咁樣嘅所謂支援性嘅房屋啦。所以咧，佢就首先就講，因為咧呢笪地咧係屬於市政府嘅，咁避免咗一啲嘅市民嘅不滿啦。佢都需要聽民意，所以佢就話：我哋市政府就唔贊成今次省政府嘅呢一個嘅 order 啦，就決定咧就 cancel。因為佢話你省政府係需要聽民意嘅，既然你係民選出嚟，點解你唔聽民意咧？咁佢哋就因為其實市政府咧喺出年咧，亦都有一個嘅市選，可能又係為咗一啲唔想令到與民為敵嘅關係，所以咧佢亦都咧呢個 City of Richmond 咧，亦都係 cancel 咗，亦都 cancel 咗嘅。所以我哋咧好彩啦吓。叫做暫緩咗 cancel 咗呢個 project， 咁而呢一笪地咧係空置咗嘅，係暫時咧係屬於市政府，但係咧呢個省政府咧依然講咧，佢話咧唔排除可以再喺其他嘅地方喺列治文係會繼續去興建呢一種咁樣嘅支援房屋，即係呢一種咁樣嘅 social housing。 呢件事咧，我哋覺得係真係好震撼嘅。其實我哋之前咧唔知點解啦，好多嘅特別華人啦，喺我哋嘅 city 上面咧，冇咩即係好乖嘅，好順民嘅，基本上就冇乜人去理政治啦，亦都冇乜人去睇新聞啦。但係咧，毒呢樣嘢咧，我相信對於好多華人嚟講咧，真係好重視，因為喺我哋嘅原居地啦，我哋係唔容許有毒品呢樣嘢發生啦，即係哇！如果你真係吸毒嘅，就會繩之於法啦，甚至會捉你去戒毒啦，去喜靈洲啦咁。但係喺呢一度咧，就完全係兩回事。呢度咧，佢哋會覺得咧，如果你係吸毒嘅話咧，只不過係一種health issue，即係個健康嘅問題。佢唔覺得係壞事嚟嘅。佢哋覺得哦，呢個係你嘅自由，你嘅權利去吸毒，而你去唔去戒毒，亦都冇人逼到你嘅，係你自願嘅。至於你吸毒咧，就好似等於你有一個長期病患，即係好似你有糖尿病啊、心臟病啊，或者係血壓高啊等等呢啲咁樣嘅所謂嘅問題。佢唔覺得係一個對社會有害、對人類有害、對生命有害嘅一個行為，佢覺得呢個係你自己嘅自由。所以咧，呢件事咧，雖然好似暫時 cancel 咗，咁大家會問啦，咁點解仲要攞出嚟講咧？其實咧，我都覺得係時候啦，令到大家咧要多啲去醒覺，因為今次省政府嘅出爾反爾。話唔起又起，講大話，呢個行為咧令到我哋咧係好驚。為咗要杜絕呢啲情況再會發生，雖然今次呢一屆嘅市政府話唔會喺嗰度起，但係 Malcolm Brody 亦都講咗一句説話，佢話嗱，如果我可以保住今屆嘅政府，但係我唔能夠保住下一屆嘅市政府，會唔會用呢個選址去起一啲所謂省政府或者聯邦政府要我哋起嘅一啲嘅 social housing， 即係呢啲咁樣嘅支援性房屋 supportive housing。所以佢講到咧係好多後續嘅，即係好多可能唔應承㗎，唔知㗎。我而家唔應承咋，就唔等於我以後唔應承啊。嗱，一陣間咧，其實咧，我會有一位嘅嘉賓嘅，不過佢而家就未出現嘅，咁我而家咧就可以提醒我佢先。咁呢一位咧就係 Sheldon 啦。哦，OK，我而家咧就我俾一個 link 佢先。Sorry 嚇，各位觀眾，我而家俾一個 link 佢，等佢咧可以咧即刻入嚟啦。等陣先 invite。我以為我俾咗佢添，sorry。各位等陣下 link 喺度。其實我俾咗佢㗎啦，佢可能佢唔清楚。係啦，呢一個咧就係 link 啦。咁咧，我陣間咧就會請咧今次咧Keep Richmond Safe 嘅呢一位嘅創辦人啦。咁咧我就會邀請佢咧，就同我哋講下咧，佢聽日嗰個 event 究竟咧係唔係？究竟係會個情況係點樣啦？個來龍去脈啦，有啲咩嘢嘅嘉賓啦？同埋咧幾多點啊？咩時間出現啊？大家會可唔可以都去到現場去支持啊？咁樣嗱，而家咧大家等我咧 send 咗個 email 俾佢先。唔好意思嚇，係啦，等我再俾多次個 email 佢下，呢個 paste，yes，OK 得啦，係啦，咁其實咧今日咧，除咗我哋會請到阿 Sheldon 同我哋傾偈之外咧，我亦都咧會同大家分享一個啱啱咧今日喺《星島日報》咧，一個嘅新聞，呢個係我相信如果大家睇到之後咧，你都會非常之難過，就係一位嘅喺素里市一位嘅14歲嘅華裔嘅少女，因為吸毒過量咧而死亡嘅。嗱，呢一位嘅華裔少女咧，佢 喺上個禮拜咧，就喺素里咧就係舉辦咗一個嘅葬禮啦。而佢嘅父母咧，亦都其實一早已經知道咧，佢個女咧係染咗毒癮，但係尋求唔到幫助。而卑斯省嘅衛生局咧，嗰個所謂嘅戒毒嘅輔導員咧，亦都唔同佢合作，一味淨係話咧唔可以逼個細路去戒毒嘅。就因為咁樣而令到呢一位少女咧係身亡。佢只不過14歲啫。我自己咧都有我有2個細路咧，同佢差唔多大，亦都係喺呢個列治文嗰度生活。我係感覺到非常之唔安全，亦都睇到咧呢個省政府咧點樣去對待父母，點樣去對待呢一個吸毒嘅少女。而啱啱咧，其實喺上個禮拜咧，就有成過100嘅人咧去出席呢一個嘅葬禮。而除咗係去悼念呢個少女之外咧，其實亦都係想同大家講，呼籲政府係唔應該再縱容呢啲嘅毒品。嗱，呢一個華裔少女咧，咁我哋係冇名字啦。咁但係佢父母咧，亦都將佢嘅身世就講俾我哋聽。佢其實就喺加拿大出世嘅，係啦，咁樣就自細就係好單純啦，係一個好開朗嘅小朋友嚟嘅。嗱，唔好意思嚇，我睇下阿 Sheldon 入咗嚟未先？未喎。唔好意思嚇，Please come in。係啦，我叫一叫佢先。係啦，咁呢一位嘅華裔少女咧嘅母親咧就講，其實佢個女咧就喺加拿大出世啦，自細好單純、好開朗嘅。咁但係咧，因為可能受到啲朋友啦、同學嘅驅使啦，就令到佢咧就試過毒品。而佢咧喺啱啱 spring time 嘅時候啦，舊年嘅 spring time 啦，佢就喺睇牙醫嘅過程裏邊咧，就佢同個牙醫同埋佢個父母講話，佢自己咧開始有食冰毒，而且亦都有呢個嘅焦慮症嘅問題。咁當時父母係非常之擔心，亦都好擔心佢嘅學業啦，同好多華人嘅家長都係一樣啦。咁而學校咧，亦都有一個輔導員咧，係開始跟蹤佢。相信咧當時咧，其實係仲未上癮嘅，而咧做父母嘅亦都係一直咧係強調，好希望可以強制佢呢個女咧入到去呢一個嘅戒毒所去戒毒嘅。咁點不知咧，去到舊年嘅11月啦，佢個女嘅老師就提醒佢哋嘅父母，佢話咧曾經個女咧喺學校咧係問過點樣可以攞到fentanyl，所以菲沙衛生局咧就開始去介入佢個女嘅事啦，亦都咧派咗一位嘅所謂戒毒嘅治療師，就同佢個女咧每一個星期咧就係會見一次面嘅。咁咧每一次呢一個嘅戒毒治療師咧嚟到咧佢屋企嘅時候咧，佢都會叫佢哋嘅父母咧係迴避嘅。咁而所有嘢咧都係佢單對單咧同佢當時13歲個女咧就講啦。咁父母就好唔明白，佢就話咧，所有嘅嘢咧，我哋都係要得到你個女嘅意願嘅。雖然佢13歲，但係佢係可以決定佢自己嘅意願嘅。而父母咧係唔可以逼佢噶，即係例如父母係唔可以逼佢扭曲佢嘅意願，即係話佢要戒毒就戒毒，佢唔要戒毒就唔戒毒。父母係冇權去過問嘅。而每一次呢個戒毒嘅治療師同完佢呢個13歲嘅女當時啊傾完偈之後咧，佢亦都唔會披露任何嘅嘢咧俾佢哋嘅父母知道嘅，淨係簡短咁講啊，佢 OK，佢幾好，係咁樣嘅啫，亦都從來唔會強制佢去呢個嘅戒毒中心去治療嘅。佢個女，佢媽媽當然係好傷心啦。佢有一次，佢係已經勸服咗佢個女一定要去戒毒。而佢個女亦都係同意嘅。好啦，咁當呢個戒毒治療師嚟到佢哋屋企，當時有父母啦， 亦都有佢個女啦，同埋嗰個治療師啦，4個人喺個客廳嗰度嘅。而我亦都而佢嘅媽媽亦都對住佢個女講：你快啲同呢個治療師講啦！你話你願意去戒毒啦 ，OK？ 咁樣咧，但係咧，點不知呢個治療師咧聽完之後咧，就叫佢父母離開。離開完咧，佢就話要單獨同呢個女講，要問下佢個人嘅意願。好啦，點不知佢父母離開啦。咁呢一個嘅戒毒嘅治療師就同佢個女傾完偈1個鐘頭之後，就話俾佢父母聽 ，sorry，你個女咧原來佢係唔願意去戒毒嘅，因為佢話咧唔想喺外邊沖涼，亦都唔想喺外邊過夜。好啦，咁啊喺我講到呢度，我就不如請咗我哋嘅嘉賓入咗嚟先。咁我哋嘅嘉賓就係 Sheldon 吓。Hi Sheldon。
Hello Anita, thank you for having me.
Yes， 咁我首先咧再要多次介紹 Sheldon 啦，佢就係今次咧我哋聽日呢個活動啦，Keep Richmond Safe 呢個活動嘅 organizer，佢係一位嘅負責人啦。Sheldon, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes, I would like you to tell us more about the organization tomorrow. But before that, I know that you have had attend the funeral of the 14-year-old girl, but I just tell the halfway of the story. Can you just wait for me for another 2 minutes? Let me finish the story. Then I will ask you question about this incident in Surrey. Okay?
Okay.
係啦，咁咧，呢位父母就聽到好傷心啦。佢因為明明同個女已經講好咗，佢會肯去戒毒嘅，點解呢個嘅戒毒嘅治療師一講完之後，佢即刻就話唔肯去咧？而且佢父母亦都講，佢話佢得14歲，當年得13歲添咋，佢根本對毒品完全唔認識，佢亦都唔知道去到嗰啲嘅戒毒中心會係點樣。佢亦都唔知道呢個嘅毒品對佢嘅禍害有幾深，點樣可以盡毀佢嘅前途。佢唔明白，但係佢亦都唔可以去干涉，亦都呢位戒毒治療師亦都唔俾你干涉任何佢哋之間嘅對話。佢又問點解呢個戒毒治療師唔係會幫佢個女去揀一條適合佢嘅路嘅咩？係咪？點解佢哋唔游說佢，希望佢可以得到治療咧？點解淨係當時問佢你想去定唔想去，就係咁，跟住話俾佢聽啊，係啊，你可能要去第度住噶，或者沖涼都喺第度沖啊。咁佢唔去，咁你就話哦，咁你唔去啊，咁啊 OK 啦，我尊重你嘅意願啦。好啦，跟住去到1月嘅26號，佢個女喺素利嘅一個嘅購物中心，因為吸毒過量而俾警察發現，而入咗醫院搶救。佢媽媽就講啦，佢話當時個警察好好，佢話佢提醒我個女而家嘅情況，佢係好危險，係死過翻生，入咗鬼門關一轉出翻嚟，係好彩執翻條命。呢位警察佢話：你記得要求醫院一定要俾佢留醫72小時，係跟住麻煩你叫醫院嘅醫生安排佢入去戒毒。呢個係一個嘅警察係同佢哋講嘅，但係好可惜，素利嘅醫院佢話你個女咧唔適合住院，所以咧就被逼一定要帶佢翻屋企。當時佢個女咧個身體非常之唔穩定，亦都好差，連接幾日都冇翻過學啦。好啦，去到1月嘅30號，呢個父母一直都為個女奔波。一早起身就出咗去揾一啲點樣可以幫佢戒毒嘅一啲資源。點不知翻到屋企，大概朝頭早10點幾，佢入到去個女間房，已經發現佢個面咧係好青，已經昏迷咗。送佢去醫院，點不知素利醫院咧亦都將佢轉介，再送佢去兒童醫院。搶救咗10幾個鐘頭之後，冇辦法，結果佢個女咧 離開咗。係啦，咁而醫院咧亦都係證實啦，佢係死於服用過量嘅芬太尼。而佢媽媽同佢嘅父母啦，媽媽係相當之痛心。佢話今次佢嘅死亡係個制度去害死佢嘅。點解唔一早安排佢入去戒毒中心咧？點解喺度兜兜轉轉推嚟推去？一日就話係呢個係佢嘅意願，係佢嘅意願，佢唔想。佢當時得13歲咋？點解佢想唔想？你估佢足夠嘅成熟去為佢自己諗咩？而我哋聽到係真係好傷心，因為我自己都係個父母，我自己都有小朋友差唔多咁嘅年紀。若不幸遇上壞嘅朋友，因為好奇心單純食咗毒品，而已經同學校講，已經亦都入過醫院，亦都揾咗一啲嘅非沙行Fraser Health 嘅人去幫佢，但係個結果都係一樣係冇結果嘅。我睇完呢個新聞，我係好憤怒，真係好憤怒。而 Sheldon 咧，亦都係有出席佢今次嘅喪禮。Sheldon, when did you go to the funeral? Was it last week?
So the funeral was it was last week. It was on Thursday morning. So it happened around the same time that City Council reversed their decision on the housing. But I was in Surrey in the morning. It was 10 a.m. to about 11:30 a.m. And then they did a press conference with Ming Pao, Sing Tao, and Omni News following the funeral.
Mm-hmm. It was so devastating. Like my heart broken because I am a parent. I also have the same age of kids, like 15-year-old. So how would that happen? Why the system kill her? I would say.
Well, I mean, first, my heart does go out to the family. They were grief-stricken. The parents, the parents, they will never be the same ever again. I feel very sad for them, for their family, for her sister as well. It is a tragedy. How this happened is we did it. Like someone asked a question: how is it possible a 14-year-old girl can get access to fentanyl? Well, fentanyl is you can buy a bag of fentanyl for $10 on the street, and BC is the epicenter of fentanyl production. So what we do know is that the chemical precursors for fentanyl are coming from Mexico, from China, coming into BC, and then organized criminal groups are refining that fentanyl here and producing it here. So unfortunately, in Canada, we say we don't refine a lot of things. The only thing we seem to refine is fentanyl. And then that is being shipped across Canada and North America. So when the United States government says Canada has a fentanyl problem, they are telling the truth. We don't know how bad it is, but we know it's so readily available because it's being made here.
Yes, I've heard so many sources was talking about that too. We had discovered some super lab in Kelowna. It's like, oh no, it's
Falkland, a small
island.
Falkland. Not the islands. That's in Argentina, but this town of Falkland in the central interior of British Columbia. It's a sleepy little town. None of us have ever heard of it. And who knows how many more labs like that are operating across BC. We don't. But we know they have infrastructure here. The Port of Metro Vancouver is a hub for transnational criminal enterprise. All the Mexican drug cartels have their people working at the port. Local organized crime have their people working at the port. And the port does not have a police. There's no federal port police.
No way. It's a port.
There's no RCMP.
So many like goods like every day.
The Liberal government, right? The Liberal government in around 1995, disbanded the Canada Federal Port Police. There's not even an RCMP task force for the ports. Sometimes Vancouver police, they can go into the port, But keep in mind, they're a city police. They do not have jurisdiction over the port. The port is federal. And so their scope is very limited. And so their hands are tied going in there, and they don't have the resources. Same with Delta Police at the Delta port, or even up at the port up in northern BC. I was talking to people that work at American ports, and they say, we have police at every single port in America. But Vancouver, we know drugs are coming in, drugs are going out, and the Port of Metro Vancouver is the central hub across the Pacific, across North America, across Asia. Australian government has found drugs coming from Port of Metro Vancouver, and they're saying, hey, you need to do something. Our allies, Japan, China, well, not China, but Japan and South Korea have said drugs are coming into our country from the Port of Metro Vancouver. This is a failure of our federal government to police it. And then on top of that, these criminal groups have they have accountants, lawyers, others here that they can launder their money into trusts, into real estate, and hide their money. And we all know about the Vancouver model. They call it the Vancouver model because it's the model for money laundering that everyone everywhere else wants to emulate.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I heard from my son. And what about the fentanyl stuff over schools? He said, if you want to get it, very easy. You just
Yes.
ask and someone will give you. How much is that? Oh, you only need $10 or $20. You can get fentanyl. What about the
Mhm.
school? Do they interfere? No. The school, they don't care. They don't really care about that. What about the
Yeah.
police? Oh, you know what, Mom? If you have the fentanyl at home, it's fine. The police cannot interfere. Whatever you keep at home is fine. Even if the police see you like taking the drug on the street, they just ask you, go home. Don't do it here. They will not charge you. They don't put charge in it. And also, the minors. I asked my son, what does the minor means? Like, oh, it means like you're under 19, all the criminals, like no charge, just go home. And
So
yeah, it's ridiculous. So they are
Well,
very naive. They are very young. They don't know,
and to go back to
right?
the girl in this case too, now that we established why there's so much drugs here, but going back to the girl, I mean, there's one other aspect to it too. The provincial government, of course, says that fentanyl is bad, so we need to give government subsidized drugs, which are not as dangerous as fentanyl. And then the drug users are taking those drugs, so it's going to be hydromorphone, which is called dillies. That's what kids call them, dillies. And
Dilly? Okay.
but it's hydromorphone pills, really, and it's supposed to get drug addicts like, here, take these pills instead of doing fentanyl. But the fentanyl drug addicts want their fentanyl, so they take their hydromorphone pills, their dillies, sell it back to the drug dealers, and then the drug dealers divert these drugs to school children. And so the reporter Sam Cooper has covered a lot of reports about how, like, Nanaimo, particularly that school district, has had lots of diverted safe supply drugs. And so you're seeing kids with addictions to hydromorphone or opioids. Now, not as bad as fentanyl will kill you. These ones will kill you more slowly, but it's still not good. It's destroying lives, destroying young people. And so going back to the parents of this 14-year-old girl, with I don't know the full details of how it fully started. It started last August, to my understanding, up until January, where she died at the end of January. But they tried to get her into treatment. They tried, and there was also an addictions counselor or youth counselor from Fraser Health. And when the parents tried to talk to them, they told the parents to leave because the child is over 13 years of age. And so the child should have a say on whether they want to agree to detox or not, because you have to do detox before you go into rehab. And of course, if you have someone that's so young and your mind is still developing, but you're addicted to drugs, the drugs affect your brain. You're not making good decisions because of the drugs. And the parents, this is a case where the parents should have the right to be there and, as a legal guardian, make decisions for their daughter to get her help. And the system just completely told them, nope, you go and we'll talk to her. And that's not going to get someone who's addicted to drugs off of the drugs, regardless of their age.
係啦，咁啊，Sheldon 咧就一直都講咧話，我哋喺個港口個 port 個監管係唔足夠，根本就冇一個即係監管，係有得啲貨物咧出入嘅，而至於咧 city 咧又唔可嘅警察亦都唔可以去 touch 呢個嘅 port，因為個 port 咧係屬於聯邦嘅，分得好仔細，所以其實好多嘅毒品咧。即係出入嘅，咁同埋咧，我哋亦都咧睇過好多新聞啦，都好知道發現好多嘅 super lab 咧都係我哋呢度製造嘅，咁同埋我哋嘅即係省府咧就對於呢個嘅毒品咧係完全係當佢係一個嘅疾病，佢冇去理佢，同埋一個13歲嘅咁細個細路女，佢點可能會係可以決定到佢嘅人生，或者係知道毒品嘅禍害咧？It is ridiculous, right? I mean, especially the provincial government, the way they treat the minors. I don't understand who set these rules. Like 13 is able to decide what they want, get treatment or not. Why? Why do they they are still very young?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I don't think it initially started with the drug. There's other issues too with parents. Like if the child wants to change their gender, they have the right to decide that without their parents, if they're 13 or older. So it's crazy. Some of these policies did come in under the previous Liberal government, under Christy Clark, and then the NDP has doubled down on them. And so it is coming from Liberal and NDP policies. I think, I think most people would agree that parents should be able to have some rights over their children, because their children are under their guardianship until they become a legal adult. So this is government. It's government oversight. The author Franz Kafka writes a lot of books about how government bureaucracy is a nightmare. Well, this is a nightmare because the government system failed this family. She may have died of drugs, but the system did not help, and the system contributed to this sad situation.
Okay, well, I know that BC, the province of BC, right? They are experimental of this decriminalize of the opioid stuff, right? For how long? Where would that be finished?
So apparently the open decriminalization, so the open use of drugs is illegal again. Because obviously we were seeing open drug use in parks, playgrounds across Metro Vancouver. That has ended, but police may still not enforce. So if they still find people using drugs openly, they may not arrest them, because what's the point for the police to arrest them if the next day the judge or the prosecutor is going to release them? Just across the street, the modular housing where I live in Richmond, there are people in there who have long criminal records. One of them has one of them that's there right now has an assault with a weapon charge. Another guy who was a guest the other day had an assault with a weapon charge, and they only get 1 day in jail for assault with a weapon. I mean, that is dangerous. It's a public safety concern. And our courts are just ill-equipped to deal with this. I don't know what's going on with the court system. Why this is happening?
Yeah, the Supreme Court said this is the human right. You cannot arrest them, even though they take drug on the streets at the public areas. The police cannot do anything. Just ask you to go home. Don't do it here. Go home. like that. So we are in a very critical moment, Sheldon. I mean, at least at BC. But I
Yeah.
know that there are lots of criminal is happening at another like city, like Victoria. Somebody, a manager of the Hudson Bay like company, like he got like stabbed or attacked by the homelessness, by one of
Yes.
the suspect of the drug addicts, the homeless. But finally, that homeless, like that suspect released from the police, like because they don't have enough evidence to accuse him. So this is ridiculous. And that manager is in life-threatening condition in the hospital. So it's really bad. I don't want to hear that anymore. We save life.
And I do think we need laws that will look at judges and prosecutors, and if they have a bad track record of releasing people who are repeat violent or repeat offenders, that perhaps we evaluate whether those prosecutors should continue doing their job, whether those judges should continue serving on the bench if they cannot uphold laws, because we do have laws that can deal with people who break these laws, but no one is enforcing them.
Yeah. And okay, so what the federal government can do with this, like with this situation, and also the NDP, the government in BC, what can they do for us?
Well, the federal government can deal with laws. They can so I mean, obviously these are laws with our broken justice system, the catch and release. You catch offenders, you release them, then they go back out and they repeat. The federal government can start changing laws to focus on that. We can bring back the mandatory minimums that Stephen Harper instated. Stephen Harper introduced mandatory minimum laws, and when Trudeau got elected, Trudeau reversed all those mandatory minimums. Maybe we also need to do what the US has done historically, like 3 strikes. If there's like 3 serious violent criminal, not small like ones, but serious ones, that then they do go to jail for life. But I don't know. We may have a problem with our prisons too. We may not have enough prison space. That is something that needs to be fully looked at. On the provincial side, what we can do, we can stop this harm reduction policies that have kind of blown up and created this entire industry. We can focus on drug education and prevention. We can focus on enforcement of drug laws, and we can also focus on treatment. And that's the thing. People are not getting into treatment. These parents could not get their daughter into treatment. There needs to be accessibility to treatment. Every time I've brought this up over the last few years, I meet politicians who say, we cannot, we need to build a consumption site right now. We can do treatment later. But in a few years later, it's like, oh, we can't do treatment now. We'll do treatment later. And it's always, okay, let's give them more free drugs. Let's give them places to do that. And it's not working. Personally, I've been I think we should reinvest Riverview Hospital out in the Coquitlam area. It used to be the hospital where people with mental health issues were hospitalized. And I think it should be reinvested so that you have a mental health wing and a drug addiction wing. And you'll need drug addiction where too. And there's one proposal, I said, a good place in Richmond where we could put one, but you need treatment. And sometimes it has to be secure treatment so that these people are not a danger to themselves or to the public.
Right. What we can do, like as the residents in Richmond or in BC or anywhere in Canada, we have to stand up for that. We have to fight for the drug, like fight against the drug. I mean, we cannot we cannot let this thing happen again. I don't want to hear anymore like 14-year-old, 13-year-old die because of this. And also, I know that since 2016, we have lost over 50,000 of lives, almost 60,000 of life.
Mm-hmm.
It is terrible, miserable. I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to get more people die, like, anymore. So what can we do? So we have to let them know, like the residents, to aware.
Yes, people need to be aware.
Right? To know what the government is doing right now. Please wake up. Please read the news. Please stand up. Talk, walk, get out of the house and talk to friends and tell them how dangerous situation it is we are having.
And I think people get involved. They need to pay attention to the people who are running for school board, city council, for provincial government, for federal government, and see where do they stand? Where do their parties stand? What is the track record of their leaders? I see some people in the comments here are saying, we need to look at politics. A lot of people don't like to get involved with politics. Politics is very divisive. It's stressful. People have headaches about it. But thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, they said, if you do not get involved, you'll be governed by the people who do get involved. And so, and you may not necessarily like what the people who do get involved want their government to do. So it is, in a democratic country, it is people's obligation to pay attention, to get involved, to turn out and to hold their elected officials accountable. And if their elected officials are not doing a good enough job, then they need to vote them out. So that's one way. We can do what like Keep Richmond Safe is doing. What I've been organizing here in Richmond. We organized protests against the low barrier housing where people are doing drugs, happening in the neighborhoods around that because of the drug use. We opposed the consumption site proposal at Richmond Hospital. And we did that by going to council, speaking out, by hosting a protest, inviting people to come out and join. And we have another protest tomorrow, Monday, at Richmond City Hall, 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. And so if anyone here is in Vancouver or Richmond, feel free to come out, whether it's raining or it's sunshine tomorrow. I don't know what the weather will be, but we will organize this protest. Some of the politicians will join us from City Council. I believe Councillor Chokao will join us. And then from the provincial level, the leader of the official opposition, John Rustad. But more importantly than that, it is a community-led event. And so many of the speakers will be people from the community sharing their stories, sharing their perspectives. And so some other groups will join us, like Kitsilano Coalition. They're a group in Vancouver opposed to the Arbutus Project, very similar to ours. They just won a huge legal battle in the fight, saying that the government did not consult people in that neighborhood. And so the government's trying to be very sneaky with these sites, with these projects. And so we have to pay attention. Because they'll try to let it go through without, if no one is paying attention, then they can get away with it. So we have to be very cognizant of what they're doing, pay attention to what they're doing. And another thing we'll be focusing on tomorrow is we also have a website, which is callforchange.ca. And the 4 is the number 4, not the letter, not the spelling. So callforchange.ca. And that was from a press release we put out last October, calling on the provincial government to stop low barrier housing and to stop consumption sites across BC, that we need to stop these programs and focus on education and treatment. And so, I want to do that. I want to show other cities across BC that they can fight back against these projects if they want, that they're not alone, that Richmond we were able to successfully stop this, just like we stopped the consumption site. But other communities are facing the same problem, and they may feel no one's listening. Well, we did it in Richmond, and we can help other communities do the same. So yeah, callforchange.ca.
Okay, .ca. I will, add it. Sure.
Yeah, that just highlights, and it's in English and Chinese, so people can read.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. Here. Oh, add banner. Oops. I don't know what happened. Okay. Save. Yes. All right. This one. Call for change.
Yes.
.ca. OK。其實咧，我哋真係好，除咗咧，大家都聽到啦，我同阿 Sheldon 咧講緊咧，而家我哋嘅省政府咧個問題係根本就冇人可以去鼓勵或者係去強制佢哋去戒毒嘅，所有嘢都話我尊重你嘅意願，唔單止係吸毒，連變性呢樣嘢，13歲都已經可以唔需要同父母講，醫院唔會同父母講。學校唔會同父母講，由得個小朋友自己去決定，有乜可能呢？佢哋根本都未成熟。而家我哋針對嘅當然亦都係毒品嘅問題，政府同埋執法人員完全係執唔到法，佢哋冇嗰一個權力去執法。而我哋嘅Supreme Court 咧，亦都咧話你唔可以唔俾嗰啲人喺街度吸毒，因為嗰啲係人權。呢啲係有乜嘢嘅道理？係 ridiculous 嘅理由嚟嘅，我哋係唔可能咁樣落去咧，遲早亡國噶啦亡國噶啦。Our Canada will be finished because of the drug. No more hope. No more prosperity. Yeah, people always like just feeling good. I want my freedom. I want my right. Human right is everything.This is nonsense. That's why 我哋聽日咧就有一個由阿 Sheldon organize 嘅一個咁樣嘅活動啦。其實係去表態，去話俾人聽，我哋係知道㗎。As a resident，我哋作為一個公民，作為一個市民，我哋係要話俾我哋嘅政府聽，我哋話俾我哋嘅 federal government 聽，我哋嘅聯邦政府同埋我哋嘅 provincial government 聽，我哋係。唔認為你做得啱，我哋知道你做緊嘅係一條歪路，係令到好多嘅 young life， you cause a lot of young lives， they died. It's so heartbroken. 同埋咁樣落去咧，我哋呢個國家仲有啲咩希望咧 ？No hope of this country, hopeless. 所以我哋要行出嚟，就算今日。Today, the supportive housing stopped, but you don't know. Next day, the other day, the other month, or next year, we'll have another like social housing, another supportive housing. And also, we already have like 2 modular homes in Richmond right now. They said it's temporary, but I don't see any date for the end. No, I don't see it. Right?
So, yeah, so social housing, supportive housing, no one is against helping people who are homeless. The problem is this low barrier, which is no barrier. People that have drug addictions are going in there, they're getting their drugs, they're doing their drugs in there, they're breaking into condos around the area, leaving their needles, pipes, vandalizing property, harassing people, starting fires. It just, the list goes on and on of what happens when these things go in. And so there needs to be rules. Now, if it was social housing for seniors who were they had very low pensions and they can't afford to rent, no one would have problems with supportive housing for people who have seniors or people who have disabilities and wheelchairs. The main problem is this tolerance and permissiveness of drug use, drug addiction, and the crime that goes with that, because they're allowed to do anything and get away with it. There's no punishment. There's no consequence. And the other day, some of them were saying, what do you expect? They have mental health issues. Their brain is not working right. It's like, but that's not an excuse for people to go and break the law and commit crimes. If their mental health, because they have brain damage, then they need to be institutionalized in a secure hospital for psychiatric issues. So we're either a nation of laws and order, or there's anarchy, lawlessness, and right now it's getting more towards the point of lawlessness. And the police officers, they're exhausted because they can arrest these people, but they'll just be back out. So what's the point?
What's the point?
And
No point. And 同埋咧，而家咧有好多反美嘅情緒，OK？唔買美國貨嚇，唔去美國旅行。We are like doing some activities about like anti the American goods and or anything USA, right? But the thing is，大家有冇諗下我哋自身嘅問題先？What about us? Like inside our country, the problem of our country, the drug problem of our country, especially BC, the province. The problem is inside out now. Don't blame first. What about us? How is our government doing? Our federal government doing? Killing the young people, 殺緊人啊！佢哋喺度，佢哋當生命如無物。自從2016年殺咗超過5萬人，嚟緊6萬啦。Like killed almost like 60,000 people. Young people's lives. 你話點解仲要繼續咧？我哋冇去我仲係有得去繼續嘅喎。所以我哋要全部人都要醒㗎啦。我哋要救自己。You want to save a country? You against the drug first.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, when the U.S. says there's a drug problem, I mean, we have to look at ourselves, and we have to realize that our federal resources are not even equipped, I think, to deal with this. The RCMP has a lot of internal problems. There's a disconnect from the senior leadership of the RCMP to like what's on the ground here in BC. FinTrack, we know a lot of the criminal enterprises are hiding their money through a lot of things, and I don't think there's a lot of incentive for federal law enforcement to crack down on this, to go after this. In the US, the FBI and some of our allies in other countries say we are concerned with the level of drugs and money laundering happening in Canada. And previously, when intelligence was being shared to the RCMP, it turned out that criminal intelligence was being sold back to criminal enterprises. And there's that former RCMP senior person, Cameron Ordez. He's in court right now because he could go to jail for life because he was taking information, criminal information that was being given to us by our allies, and then selling it back to gangs and terrorists and other for money. So he was selling that information. So they felt that the RCMP had a leak and that Canada was the weakest link of all the Five Eyes intelligence countries. And our allies don't trust Canada because the information was, we're supposed to keep that information secret, and it was going back out there to criminals. And you know, it's unfortunate I'm going on about this because it all starts with drugs at the local level, but it goes all the way up to the top. There's so much. It's all interconnected. I do believe there is massive corruption going on, sometimes wittingly, unwittingly, and I think the Canadian law enforcement just does not have the resources or capability currently to go after it. And I don't know how. The money launderers, they have lawyers, they have accountants.
Of course, they have money. They have money,
and they can just fight this for years and hide it because the laws make it difficult. Where in the U.S., look at TD Bank. The Biden administration actually convicted TD Bank for money laundering for drug cartels, and TD Bank pleaded guilty They pled guilty to money laundering for drug cartels and paid a $3 billion fine. And so, because TD Bank was helping drug cartels launder their money. In the US takes that seriously, but in Canada, has any bank been
No.
held accountable for doing this? No. So yeah, when other countries criticize Canada, there is some legitimacy to that. And the Liberals would like to say, oh, well, it's Donald Trump, but we need to take this drug issue seriously, and I don't think we are.
No, we are not. Obviously, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad. But what can we do? Right? We vote them.
Yes.
That's why people, you need to wake up.
And even the average politician is not very, for them, it's so big. It's so big. It's hard to, and he's like, well, where's the proof? It's hard to prove something where there's so much corruption. It's hidden in complexity. The Vancouver model is very complex. I mean, Sam Cooper has been doing a lot of good work on investigative journalism on this. But yeah, there's very few voices that have been pushing on all of this.
But somebody said he is in danger too.
Well, he is also dealing with other issues too, as we both know. So, but like on the drug issue, him and also Adam Seville with the National Post, they have been the two leaders on the drug issue.
Mhm.
And yeah, we need more people willing to step up and fight this, because on one side you're fighting the criminal enterprises, on the other side you're also fighting government bureaucracy, which is also jumping in on all of this.
Mhm.
And there's even corruption there too in BC, because the people who started like Safe Supply
Mhm.
and this harm reduction and went all in on harm reduction, when they retired from their jobs, they set up nonprofits or companies that get government contracts to operate services for like providing heroin to drug users or vending machines for drug paraphernalia. So they're probably making more money by getting these contracts to operate these services than when they were working in government. And so I don't think that should be allowed. Just the scope of it's so wide, and like I even if there was like a Royal Commission investigation on this, I don't think they would be able to cover it all, because there's so many different angles that this branches off into.
Wow, we
But
need a big reform.
there needs to be huge reform. You need reform at all levels of government, provincial,
Yes.
federal. But you need to start somewhere, and you need to start with some things. And I think, well, first, the people who have drug addictions, let's focus on trying to open up treatment for them to get better.
Yes.
And let's stop giving out free drugs.
Right. The detox, right?
Yes.
Treatment is what we need now, not building all those social housing.
Yes.
To put them all under the carpet, to hide it. And then,
Yes.
oh, no more people die. No, nothing. No, don't do that. Now we see it. We know it. So people, wake up. 聽日我哋就要去到呢一個地方，我哋去支持 support 翻我哋自己嘅社區 ，support our community， 支持我哋唔可以再有毒品，我哋要俾我哋嘅省政府，我哋 provincial government 聽，要話俾佢哋聽。而家我好唔滿意你嗰個嘅呢個嘅毒品嘅制度，唔好再俾我哋實驗啦。我哋唔要 decriminalize， 我哋要 criminalize， 我哋要行使翻警察嘅權力。The power of the police, they have to do something to keep our society safe。唔可以再俾嗰啲毒品周圍喺學校好平嘅價錢，周圍去毒害一啲學生 ，like 13-year-old, like 14-year-old, even anyone, any young minors。所以聽日咧，我哋9點半就會喺我哋嘅 Richmond City Hall。到時咧，我哋唔單止有 poster 裏邊嘅人，我哋仲有好多其他嘅人，亦都好歡迎你加入，歡迎你去發聲，歡迎你去支持我哋自己住嘅社區。雖然今次唔係喺翻同一個嘅 Sesmith 呢個地方建立呢一個嘅 supportive housing， 但係你唔可以排除 next year or next year we don't know or somewhere else 其他嘅地方都會起呢啲地方嘅，我哋一樣係會反對嘅，我哋係唔會容許我哋嘅市民受到傷害，我哋唔可能容許呢啲針筒 like those 針筒即係周圍咁樣 needles right everywhere on the street. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, now it's more pipes now because the fentanyl is smoke. They smoke it. So we're seeing less needles than before, but still we still sometimes see needles. A few weeks ago, there was some people that were caught on video, neighbors of Richmond on Instagram. They have a video. A Strata president asked them to leave the property, and they yelled racist slurs at him and then threw needles at him as well. But more often we're seeing people pipes now more than needles. So just so people know what to look for, there's a lot of pipes and tin foil. Of course, you see a lot of tin foil, aluminum foil. So when we do just look around the area, we just keep an eye on that to see if they just leave it in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Sheldon. You've been putting a lot of effort on drugs activities. You've been doing a lot of this kind of things for the community. Thank you so much. And we trust on you. And then we will support you and also support ourselves and support the community. 我哋會支持你，同埋我哋嘅自己嘅社區。OK， 我哋唔可以俾我哋嘅列治文咁樣沉淪落去。No， 亦都好多謝 Sheldon 啦。always remind us we need to do something. We need to stand up, face the problem. Don't let it go.
Yeah, get involved, pay attention, ask your candidates for city council, for MLA, for MP. If you're in the US, ask if you can ask your people running for Congress or Senate. Go talk to them, find out where they stand, and ask them hard questions, ask them uncomfortable questions. Because when city council reversed the Canby Sexsmith low barrier supportive housing site on Thursday, I want to read just a quote from that, and I'll pull it up on my phone. And I'm glad that one media was able to catch this. At the announcement, Richmond Mayor Brody says the vocal opposition factored heavily into the city's decision. And quote, this is what the mayor said, quote, "It got louder than ever. That has necessitated a change in our direction, one which we don't happily or willingly take, but we have recognized it on this project is not going on, and therefore we have made a difficult decision to terminate it." So the fact that he's saying that he did not willingly or happily, they didn't want to do this. But the reason they did it is because the community joined me. We worked together as a community and put pressure on them, pressure that made the mayor make a decision that he did not want to make. And so politicians, when you have government programs and the government managers, the bureaucrats are not listening to you, in my experience, you go to the politicians, and if they're not going to do anything, then you put pressure on them and you hold them accountable. The one thing politicians hate is having pressure put on them and being called out and held accountable for them not doing anything on something that's harming the community. So don't be afraid to put pressure on your elected politicians.
如果聽日我哋齊心，我哋俾壓力我哋嘅政治嗰啲人物，例如我哋嘅國會議員啊，或者係省議員啊，甚至係市議員，佢哋聽日都會喺度出席嘅。所以如果大家有啲咩嘅意見嘅，聽日就趁呢個機會可以直接同佢哋講，俾壓力佢哋。今次佢唔去繼續建設呢一個 supportive housing 咧，都係因為我哋出聲俾壓力啊 Malcolm Brody， 所以佢先至停咗嘅啫。其實你問佢想唔想，佢都係梗係想啦。因為喺 Vancouver 嗰個嘅市長 Ken Sim， 佢唔起 supportive housing，Malcolm Brody 係有份鬧佢噶。所以你諗下，其實佢都好想做呢樣嘢嘅，因為佢想配合一個政治人物，佢係要配合翻啲政府，係咪啊？佢就係要咁做，但係佢哋忘記咗佢哋係民選嘅。We vote them. We also can vote them out.
Yes.
OK，
And low barrier supportive housing. Low barrier is the key word, although they try to hide that word. And that's why you have
哦
to be careful. You have to read everything carefully because they try to hide things as well. And even though this housing site is not going on, we're still going out tomorrow to make our voices known, to let other communities know they can do the same. They
right
can hold their governments accountable,
嗯
and
哼
that even if it starts with one person, that can
嗯
become
哼
3 people, then 10, then 100, then 1,000. And that happened last year with the consumption site. The first time I spoke out against it, only 3 other people were with me. The next week there was 1,000 people.
yes
So even a small group of people can create change if you do, but you just have to pay attention to everything
嗯。
and pay close attention to everything.
唔好睇小你自己嘅力量啊！真係大家即係最緊要團結就是力量。你嘅出現，你嘅 support 係好重要，因為所有嘅嘢我哋做過嘅嘢都有痕跡，我哋會知道，佢哋市政府係會知道，省政府都會知道。所以我再 remind 大家一次啦，聽日咧我哋咧就會喺呢一個OK 呢度。呢一個我哋 Richmond 嘅 City Hall 嗰度9點半去到12點鐘呢段時間啦，任何時間我歡迎你哋嚟到呢度 support 我哋今次嘅活動。今次唔係任何政黨嘅活動，亦都唔係嗰啲 political parties 嘅活動no，係一個真係出自好多即係各個階層市民大眾、家長、任何人咧 resident 喺Vancouver 住嘅，無論你咩身份，你都可以出現。總之你係愛護呢個家庭，你係愛護你住緊嘅地方，你希望佢有將來，你有小朋友嘅你自己諗住喺度安居樂業嘅，喺度諗住過你嘅下半世嘅人，任何人我都希望你嚟去支持，話俾聯邦政府聽，話俾呢個嘅省政府聽，你哋做得幾錯，我哋幾咁不滿，唔可以再係咁樣去欺騙市民。唔好為咗你哋嘅政治籌碼，你嘅政治唔好咁自私，或者你自己嘅政治嘅生命去我哋啲人。Okay, so thank you so much, Sheldon. Hi.
Thank you
Thank you so much. I know that you are so busy, and it's been over an hour, so you need time to organize the stuff for tomorrow. So 多謝你 ，thank you so much, Sheldon. 咁我哋 I will see you tomorrow. 咁各位觀眾，我都係 see you all tomorrow.
Hopefully we'll see all of you tomorrow too.
Yeah, at the in the city hall, like the Richmond City Hall. Okay, I will see you.
Make sure to dress for the weather because it could be raining.
係啦，阿 Sheldon 好 nice， 佢已經講咗幾次啦，可能聽日會落雨啊，所以着暖啲保暖，同埋咧要帶啲着件雨褸 whatever 聽日可能會落雨嘅。好，咁我哋聽日見。See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Sheldon.
See you. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.